All right, guys. Well, welcome back to episode 6 of Elevated Podcast. Podcast. I don't want to fuck that up.
Nope.
So, what are we going to be talking about today, X?
So today we're gonna keep it a little bit more freeform, guys. We want to discuss the only real topic we have is just talking a little bit about the current state of games that we play, or that we have played, even if we aren't playing currently. And then past that, we will kind of to a degree, we'll let the community guide us a little bit on what you guys would like us to talk about. This isn't really like an AMA or anything like that. Like I said, it's just going to be a bit more freeform, so we'll let the conversation just kind of dictate where we go.
Yep.
So I will start us off. I think for me, when I think of state of games right now, like although we've been playing Apex pretty consistently for like the last 2 months, the game that I've kept up with the most is still PUBG. I had been looking forward to the rollout of Ranked for quite some time, and I was really expecting the rollout of Ranked to drag us back into PUBG. And honestly, I don't think that you haven't even logged on since it rolled out, right?
To be honest, I haven't, man. Like it really hasn't drawn my attention, especially since like a lot of the top streamers that played that game are starting to now leave. So I mean, if they're leaving, it's making me not want to go back either.
So, and for me, it hasn't been so much that. It's just been, well, I think part of it is, I mean, once I get involved in something, I like to really get involved. So at this point, we were grinding the Apex grind and switching before I hit at least my first goal that I really wanted to do. Didn't seem like the best way to spend my time. But I have still been keeping up, and you're right. It's not just that like the top streamers are leaving. There's a lot of controversy.
Yeah.
Surrounding this most recent patch with the introduction of bots, with the rank system, just not so much the rank system not working the way they wanted it to, but just like the rank queues. And I think that people were expecting solos and duos to have ranked, and instead it's just squads.
Yeah.
Which to me, yeah, is a jack. To me, I always try and find the good, and not just try and find the good. I don't have to search. I usually stay more focused on the good rather than the bad.
Yeah.
But I think that having squads only as ranked actually makes sense because, like, I don't know of any competitive leagues for solo or duo. The competitive scene is primarily geared towards squads, with the exception of like a couple of individual streaming tournaments or tournaments built around streamers where, like, you know, it's maybe a professional streamer who teams up with a non-professional player, or the duo streamers. I don't even remember what that's called, but I know that they've done it a couple times.
Yeah.
But for the most part, competitive play is in squads. In Apex, they introduced, duos, but it's not ranked because the competitive side of Apex Legends is the squads.
I think that's funny though. Like, wouldn't it make more sense to have ranked on duos? It would be easier to create teams. You don't have to rely on finding 3 other people to play with.
So I think that it would make sense. It would be easier. I've thought about this a lot. Why it is that competitive play typically sees larger team sizes and not smaller. And while I don't know like the professional analysis, personally, I think that a big reason that you see comp play with squads is probably because it does become more difficult to pull together teams. And then once teams are pulled together, the synergy in those teams is extremely important. The communication in those is much more important and is much more difficult versus communication amongst 2 people. And IGL, when it's duos, and IGL isn't really all that necessary. It's highly unlikely that with just 2 people playing that it's going to be, I don't. You say go this way and I say go this way, and the squad's going to get split.
That is
So
true.
that's the only real reasons that come to mind for me as a person who played League of Legends for a long time. Trying to find 4 other people to round out a team, fucking difficult. I would have loved to have seen, like the ability to get into a more professional setting with solos or duos, but it's just non-existent. And I think it's got to be for those reasons.
Yeah, and it makes a lot of sense. When you actually lay it out like that, it makes a lot of sense.
Um, with the state of PUBG, I know that like the introduction of bots drove a lot of people away, and I understand it. I also understand the desire to implement bots. Um, Personally, I'm not opposed to it. I did jump into a few solo matches, and based off the feedback I had been hearing, I expected to run into primarily bots and have like a 20 plus kill game and get into at least the top 5. And instead, what I ran into was people reminding me that I'm not used to playing PUBG anymore, and they fucking slaughtered me. And it definitely wasn't bots. I did see a
Yeah,
couple of bots who were just kind of looking at each other and then ran away when I shot at them.
I don't know how I feel about bots, man. Like to me, it just doesn't make the game that fun anymore. I want to be able to go up against real people and kind of prove myself that I can come out on top instead of knowing that you're just killing bots the whole time. Kind of takes the fun out of it.
Yeah, but in ranked play, there are no bots.
That is true.
Uh, so taking a quick look at chat, Elijah said, "I never liked PUBG." Well, Elijah, you already know. Turt said, "Did you see the test of 150 games where they got Sandhawk 60% of times?" Yeah, I actually just saw that post on Reddit earlier today. And Gigi said, "But now I've gotten into Rocket League, Apex, Tarkov. I realized that there's better games out there, and not necessarily better games, but that I'm better at." Gamer Girl, that's really true. When you start getting,
I'm glad you added that last part.
Yep. Personally, I don't think that Apex Legends is necessarily better than PUBG. I do think that it's a bit more refined, but I don't think that the two games are even kind of similar. I think that Call of Duty tried to be kind of similar to PUBG, but it's still an arcade shooter, and that's the biggest difference between PUBG and anything else that is currently out there. Is there's nothing else that has the gunplay that PUBG offers.
Yep.
2 years ago, I thought it was pretty fair. There were a new company who entered into new territory and didn't have the financial backing that even a company like Respawn has. But now they're 3 years in as a company, and they're one of the bigger companies now, and their developers still haven't been able to figure out what needed to be done to clean up some really basic issues. I say basic as a person who doesn't know shit about developing games, but like when you go running over a hill and your weapons leave a little ghost spawn behind them, clearly indicating that a player has recently been through there. That shit existed for a year and a half. It's hard to overlook things like that.
Yeah, things that are to us that look very minor. I mean, they probably are hard to change, but even one thing that I was always frustrated about was that they never fixed the issue with the crosshairs when you go ADS and out of ADS. They don't line up. I think ADSing your crosshairs is higher or lower. I can't remember. It's higher or lower than your hipfire. And it seems like that's something so easy to fix, but apparently it's not because they haven't done anything about it. And I know Wacky Jackie has talked about it.
Nope. I mean, I don't know. Personally, I always liked Vikendi, and some of my favorite things about Vikendi have been stripped away, and it goes against what the community wants. And I am a firm believer that the community is not always right whenever it comes to the development of a game, or anything else for that matter. but I do think that it's important to listen to your community and take their feedback into consideration. And then if you're going to go against community feedback, then it's probably best to maybe release a statement about why you're choosing to go a certain way, especially when it's a request that the majority has stated. But
Mm-hmm.
I think things like that, PUBG's shooting themselves in the foot. I know that a lot of people say that they think PUBG is going to be a dead game soon. Personally, I don't think PUBG will reach a point of like a dead status until a replacement for PUBG arrives.
Yeah.
And it's not going to be Call of Duty. It's not going to be Apex. If Battlefield ever really stepped up and introduced like a good Battle Royale, I think Battlefield could possibly actually enter into that territory, but I don't think that they will.
Did you ever play Firestorm?
I did. It was.
I actually enjoyed it.
It was good.
Yeah, it wasn't that bad.
No, I
They
don't.
didn't do anything with it after that, but
Nope.
if they would have, I think it would have been a pretty decent Battle Royale game.
I agree. But like Battlefield and Call of Duty, one of the things that they're always going to do that's going to drive a wedge in their community that doesn't exist in PUBG is they're going to continue releasing a new game every year, and instead of focusing that time and energy into one game that's going to stick around for a 3 to 5 year period.
Exactly. Just fix your damn game, please. I pump out another one, right?
So the church said the test was done in ranked queue only, by the way, mentioning that one of the players had experienced 60% of their rounds in Sanhok. So whenever it comes to that type of test, the reason that I think it's important because a player put in the time to monitor it. However, I don't think it's like that. There's not really a whole lot you could say or do with that data. It's the experience of one individual out of I don't even know what the average player base is right now, but I know that it's still several thousand, and like I don't think that that's really saying much. I do think that comp play probably should have Miramar and Erangel mixed into the higher amounts, since it is mirroring the tournament scene, and the tournament scene primarily exists in the first two maps, with Sanhok being rotated in. I think some leagues were just starting to introduce Vikendi, and even that wasn't like really settled upon because Vikendi was still undergoing a lot of changes. Battlefield had done Firestorm correctly, it would have killed PUBG.
Questionable.
It's questionable. Honestly, I don't think that, like I said, I don't think that it's going to be necessarily another game that kills PUBG. I think that people throw around the word kills or killed a whole lot. Like Battlefield 4 still has a good player base. Battlefield 4 came out a long fucking time ago.
Like, yeah.
It stopped being supported a long time ago, and people still like play it. You can still install it and get into a match relatively quickly. Yeah, Vital, this is the podcast.
They said the same thing about Ring of Elysium. I mean, look where that's at.
Is it still there?
I want to say it's dead.
It's dead to me.
Yeah.
But,
Uh-oh. Weather related?
I assume so. Although I didn't hear anything this time.
Will you be able to rejoin the Zoom?
Are you still in it?
Yeah.
Do you see where you can invite somebody?
Let's see.
Give me just a second.
Yes. Hopefully that works. Since you left, it like blew me up. I'm on both screens now. Church says Ring of Elysium still has some players, but it's at H1Z1's status of popularity. That's funny that H1Z1 still has a crowd. I played it one time. Oh my god! Like all the people that are on there, are just all the sweaty ass people that still want to play that game. It's crazy.
It really is crazy, man. But I like, I think that once people really get into a game, a lot of people just don't want to leave and try out new things. And I don't think there's necessarily anything wrong with that. We're creatures of habit, it is what it is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like I still like PUBG. I still think it's probably the best VR. But just with the issues that it's been having with like cheaters and stuff, like it just makes me not want to play it. It's not that I hate the game itself. It's not the game that I hate. It's the people ruining the game itself.
Yeah. I'd say that one of the biggest concerns I've always had with PUBG is cheaters, and cheaters are prevalent in any online based game, especially on PC more so than console, for a lot of networking and hardware related issues. But I think in PUBG, when you get cheated, it feels significantly worse. Probably because of the matches of PUBG last longer than they do in nearly anything else. And because it's a slower speed, getting back up to wherever point you were at before you got shot through a wall, it hurts. Sucks.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. Sure does.
Sleepy, warm, cold. You see a guitar, how often do you play? If you don't mind, I would love to answer that question for you after we get done talking about this piece, if that's cool. So hang around and we'll revisit it. Did you do that, DJ?
No. I did not, I swear,
well, huh?
man. That's, the funny thing is about that, I wanted to ask him that question. You kind of, beat me to the punch. Because I've been looking at that guitar for the past, 2 podcasts? Yep. Yeah, I've always wondered if he can actually play it.
So, I mean, we talked about PUBG a lot. And like I said, I know that that's going to be a big piece because both of us still stay up to date with what's going on with PUBG. PUBG is a game that I know both of us really hope that they get their shit together on. Because whenever I do go back and play it, I would like for it to be a better experience. And oh, nice ice, thank you. Valorant is another game that both of us had some nice strong interest in playing. Although right before we got our access, I had told DJ that my hope for how much we were actually going to enjoy it was dwindling, and ultimately, for me, Valorant isn't the game that I was necessarily hoping it would be. I think that it ended up being much closer to CS:GO than I would have liked. I would have liked to have seen a little bit more. Realistically, I guess a little bit more with the ballistics being different instead of the super hyper arcade shooter type feeling where as long as your dot is lined up on their head, your shots are mostly going to land.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, that's where it was at. Now that ranked release, like I just don't even have the desire to really go back and play it. Ice Wolf said that Valorant felt too much like CS:GO, and yeah, I'd agree.
Pretty much It pretty much
Yeah,
is.
with just the introduction of abilities, which I think is a nice introduction.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. I think that it separates itself out enough while also not being enough for me.
Yeah. It's a whole different style of game too. It's definitely not a BR.
And I would say that other than that, realistically, the only other game we really play heavily, at least on stream, is Apex Legends. What do you feel about the current state of Apex Legends, DJ?
I think it's headed in the right direction. To me, it sounds like they are paying attention to the community and listening to what they want for the most part. The introduction of this last legend was a great move. Her abilities are I really like her ability. I don't main her right now because I kind of let X do that, but
I appreciate that.
No, but I think they're going in the right direction with all the shit that they're implementing. I would like to see maybe reworking their loot a little bit. I feel like some areas they're pretty bad, as it just kind of sucks having to open up a couple containers and run into nothing but Mozambiques
or nothing,
land
literally nothing.
or nothing. Yeah, or land in areas where there's loot and you walk around the whole main building and there's absolutely no weapons on the ground. Like that shit doesn't make any sense.
Like, I know that the whole idea behind the Battle Royale is that it pays off to get good with what's around you, right? Like, utilize whatever tools you come across. But it is really shitty when the only tools you come across are extremely limited in some areas. Like, if there was a good mixture of a shittier area that had Mozambiques and some RE45s, that would be okay.
Yeah.
If you opened up a chest and it had a Mozambique in it instead of nothing, that would be okay. I have noticed that typically only happens in that wooded area south of whatever that northernmost building is. Is it containment maybe? The one
On World's Edge?
Yeah, on World's Edge. Right? World's Edge.
I think I
Is that
know
the
what
main
you're
map?
saying. I don't remember the name.
Is World's Edge the main map?
I believe so.
Yeah.
The bigger one.
The bigger one. So Ice Wolf said that he felt like I feel like she shouldn't be classified as a heal support, talking about Loba. That's actually one of the things that I think that Apex Legends could do a slightly better job of. Personally, with the exception of Lifeline and Gibby, I really don't feel like anybody fits into a heal or tank or the DPS role. Like, I think that the roles, either they should rework some of the champions or legends to have them better classified into those roles, or just fucking do away with it.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense. I think
I would probably get rid of it.
Isn't Mirage classified as a support?
I think he is.
Guess because he can kind of scout. Like, I mean, like it's a stretch. It just doesn't make sense. I would say either classify it a little bit better, rework a few of the people, or just get rid of it, because I don't feel like it's really bringing anything good. Church said the inconsistency of loot is not different compared to PUBG. No, Church, it's definitely not different compared to PUBG. It's just like with PUBG, though, it's something that has been brought up in numerous forums, and I know that with PUBG, that is something that the developers took into consideration when reworking the maps. I haven't kept up with like the Apex forums enough to know if that's something that is highly discussed. If we play Apex for another season, I will probably start to delve more into what the community says and into the Reddit and looking, into all of that fun shit.
Yeah, I've been actually watching a lot of YouTube videos, and I haven't heard anything about reworking the loot, or if they've actually done anything. So I mean, I don't think they have, but that's just what I've seen so far.
Right. Um, yeah. I know that the inconsistency is something that exists in battle royales, but like we're saying, it is one of those things, especially in competitive play, that inconsistency is fine, but there still needs to be some standard variation. It still needs to be standardized. Like, you shouldn't be able to hit up an entire town and not have a gun for every member of your 3-man squad. Like, that just shouldn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if
Yeah.
your squad is landing on Gold House and there's one building and like 3 chests outside of it, that's a little different. If you don't walk away with a gun per person, a little bit more understandable. But when you loot a relatively main area and you're not finding enough to kit out with a minor set for each person, there's an issue there.
Yeah. That's funny that you bring that up, because it actually reminds me of a game we had where we've dropped in Gold House and been able to each one of us walk out with a weapon.
Yep.
Compared to Gauntlet, where we've landed on, I mean, I've landed on one side of the ramp of the main buildings, looted the whole main building, nothing. Dropped down to the set of 3 containers, nothing. Other side of 3 containers, nothing but a Mozambique. Like,
Yeah.
that's just as big as the Gold House area. And how do you walk out with just a Mozambique?
Yep. So in a place like Gauntlet, where Gauntlet is expected to be a high loot area, that shouldn't be happening. Now,
Exactly.
it just shouldn't. Now, when you take your chances on Gold House and you get lucky, fantastic. But you also drop there expecting to not get lucky.
Yeah. Like, I don't even remember a time where we haven't came out of there without a weapon.
No, so Church said, then it's no longer a BR. Might as well introduce competitive side with preset classes. I disagree with you. Like, it's not,
I wouldn't like that.
There's a big difference between landing and expecting to be able to find 1 to 3 guns in a general area to make sure that you're able to defend yourself, versus landing and expecting to have a R99 and a charge rifle. It should still have the battle royale elements, just while also making sure that you're not landing, getting absolutely shit RNG and getting dead because you landed in a spot that had nothing to defend yourself with.
Yep. What I would like to see is them implement what they had already tested with dropping you with the P2020 at least. At least you have something to defend yourself with. I wouldn't mind that. What are your thoughts on that?
I think that dropping with the P2020 wouldn't be bad. I have seen a lot of people suggest the sticking with the P2020 and Evo Shield. That, as much as I enjoyed that mode, if you dropped with a P2020 and an Evo Shield, then every other shield would become obsolete. Like, why even have shields in the drop? You know, why have them on the loot tables at all? But dropping with the P2020 could make things pretty interesting. What I would like to see is, instead of that, just so when you're looking at a map, right? So if you take Gauntlet, for example, it's a grid. Like, the underlying code is going to have a grid, and then it's going to have loot boxes. And so if you broke it down and you said that on this area there was a 100% chance for 2 weapons, and then out of those weapons, this is the table that would spawn, and then past that there's a, you know, there's a, I don't know, like a 30% chance it's going to be a shield, a 60% chance it's going to be health items, a 10% chance it's going to be something else. But as long as things were adjusted to include that there was 2 weapons per each section of the grid, so that way it eliminates the possibility that you land on a place like you were talking about earlier and being weaponless. I think that still encompasses the battle royale, going out there, having to be good with whatever it is you have, and pushing past it.
Agreed. Shit, if anything, I mean, it might just be a good idea to just get rid of white shields and have everybody start off with an Evo. Leave room for more loot as well, more weapons.
You say having them all start with a white shield?
remove white shields in general and have everyone start off with an Evo.
That would be interesting, I guess, because then if the first chest you open, if there's a blue shield, you maybe
You'd probably swap right away.
And then if you get into your first
bring
fight, then you might grab
bring
the
back
Evo
the
shield.
Evos back to how they were
More
before.
more difficult
More
to level
damage.
up.
Yes. Because then it wouldn't make sense to pick up a blue if you only need to do 75 damage.
That could be pretty interesting. I'd say that that's something I would be interested in hearing for a large group's thoughts. If nothing else, like I do think that would be cool to see inside of like a different type of format. I don't think that Apex has anything like that right now. I've never actually looked into their custom games, but it would be cool if they had custom games where you could start off with the P2020 and Evo Shield, and then that would give people an opportunity to test it more. It would give the developers an opportunity to tweak it, and then eventually see if maybe they found something that could be rolled out. Personally, I do think that that's probably, at least to some degree, what they were doing when they tested the P2020 and Evo Shield.
Yeah, that might have been why they did it, just to test it out, see how it would roll out.
So Ice brought up the so like how you recently found out about high-level ranked Fortnite games having an unwritten rule about players' designated drop zones, which I think is completely counterintuitive to the BR experience. Yeah, so something like that I do feel is completely counterintuitive to the VR experience. It loses its battle royale. Like I don't really understand how that ever became to be a thing. It just doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. Do I think that it could be worked into a battle royale? Like, when a player designates that this is their zone, no other players can drop there. Maybe it has like a temporary force field of like, let's just throw out a number and say 60 seconds. So for the first 60 seconds, it's impenetrable. But then after that, the force field goes down, and then people can rush you if they wanted to. But while that idea doesn't initially sound like something I would still be really interested in, I think that could be interesting to see in some of the VR games. Like immediately, even as I was saying it, I picture a group dropping in there, quickly trying to gather their shit, and then maybe a group who drops next door, knowing that they pick a good spot, getting lucky, opening up their first 3 chests and being like, we're good enough, our kit is good enough, and I feel like I'm a better player than them. And so then you walk over to their neighborhood and you're sitting there waiting for that force field to go down, like in Star Wars with the whole Darth Maul fight, where they're just waiting for the force field to drop so that way they can start throwing down. Could that be interesting? Yeah. Would I want to see that implemented in any of the games I play? Fuck no.
Well, isn't that kind of how Ring of Elysium was, but without locking people out? Because you can choose where you landed.
Yeah, you could actually choose where you landed, but I just don't think that it locked other people out.
No, that was the only thing that was missing.
Gigi, I'm glad that you got that reference. She said, "I fucking love you," the Star Wars because of the Star Wars reference.
I can't say anything about
that. So with Apex, I'm excited to see the direction it's going to continue going. I really am looking forward to what the next champion is going to be and the next legend's going to be. I really don't see a lot with Apex that personally I would like to see changed, other than not opening up a chest and finding absolutely zero in it. Like that. That's what the fuck, man.
Stupid. Yeah, it's just little bugs. Yep. Nothing major.
Other than that, I think that Apex is probably the most well-rounded game that we're currently playing. Run into cheaters occasionally, run into people, exploiting and teaming occasionally, but for the most part, it's pretty solid.
Yeah.
I know like there's been a lot of question about my feelings on the rank system and how easy or difficult it is to rank. Personally, I think that it's pretty well balanced. I played a couple of games of League of Legends today, an hour and a half worth of games. One. When I won, I got 16 RP. When I lost my second game, which I lost because 2 out of the 5 players were absolutely terrible, and I did well, and my duo partner did well, but it doesn't take that shit into consideration. You don't get RP based off of the number of kills or your. Well, I mean, you do get RP based on your placement because you're either first or you're last. But I lost more RP than I gained. I lost 19 RP when I only gained 16. So, and League of Legends,
Wow.
like Riot has said that their goal for matchmaking is to match you up with opponents that 50% of the time you're going to lose to, which I think is fair, because that means that the odds are typically against you. And if you're good and you deserve to rank, then you have to fucking fight to prove it. But if you're only expected to win 50% of the time and you lose more RP than you gain, then like you're destined to fall backwards. Makes it difficult, makes it extremely frustrating, especially when you can only play 2 matches in an hour and a half.
Damn.
Yep.
Yeah, I could see how that could get a little frustrating.
Yeah, just a bit.
That's why you don't want me to play it, huh?
No, I really don't, man. Like there was a point in time where I probably would have said, "Hey, dude, you should pick up some League of Legends and play with me." But the reality is when I find somebody that I enjoy playing games with, it makes me nervous to play League with them because I get salty, dude. And like when somebody makes a mistake 35 minutes into a match of League of Legends, a single mistake can literally cost you the entire game.
Yeah.
And so when you see somebody make that mistake, it can get frustrating really quick.
Yeah. You did all this, and then that's all it took. Just one move.
One dumbass fucking move. Actually, I will say the one of the games that I spend quite a bit of time playing, but I don't play a lot on stream, is Magic the Gathering Arena. And today, Magic hosted a tournament that was open to every single player, and I thought the idea behind the tournament I think is fantastic. I also think that it's extremely difficult to actually win, but in what they did was they opened up this tournament to anybody that wanted to play. It costs 4,000 gems in-game currency, which I think is, I'm not positive. We'll say it's like 30 or 35 bucks to enter. It's relatively expensive to enter.
Holy crap.
And it's with standard constructed decks. So you know the deck that you're going in to play with, and if you win 7 matches today, when you enter the tournament, you can lose 3 times. On your 3rd loss, you're disqualified. If you win 7 games, and it's best out of 1, so like me and you would face off, whoever won counts as a win. If you win your 7 matches, you get to move into the second day, tomorrow's tournament. Any player that wins 7 matches tomorrow wins $2,000.
Holy shit.
And it's an unlimited amount of players, man. So like as many players who get qualified for tomorrow, and all you have to do is win 7 games today without losing 3 times. You go into it tomorrow, and if you can beat your opponents, right? So it's various opponents. You win 7 games, you win $2,000. If you win 6 games, you win $1,000. And I think that's fantastic. The problem is when you actually start looking at things and you realize that the best. So in Magic the Gathering, there you play with collectible cards, and there's limited number of cards that are allowed in standard. So people who are much more intelligent and better at the game than I am, figure out the best combination of cards to make the best decks. The best decks in standard only have like a 63% win rate. So if a 63% win rate when you're facing off against somebody and you have to win 7 games and you're only allowed 3 losses, that right there means that you have to win 2 games per every one, right? Which means that you have to have roughly a 66.3333% win rate. So the house is inevitably going to win more often than not. But I still think it's badass. You know, like I can't imagine if Respawn opened up some type of an open tournament where if you placed like the top 5, 7 out of 10 games, you were allowed to go into a tournament tomorrow, and then if you placed in the top 3 X amount of times, you won $2,000 like that. It would be similar to that, and it's just something you don't see very many companies doing. I think it's something that's going to help bring in more players and really set the stage for a competitive gaming in a non-professional way, like giving many players an opportunity to actually earn money. I think it's crazy. Fantastic.
That sounds dope.
Yep, I lost.
How long are each game?
In Magic, a game on average 5 to 15 minutes.
Well, that's not too bad. I was thinking more like 30, 40 minutes.
Now, they can go that long, but on average 5 to 15 minutes.
Okay. Oh, yeah, that's not too bad. Not too much time that's invested.
Not at all.
So I'm just looking at that guitar, man. I want to know more, man.
Come here. Hey. All right, get down. That guitar I got a couple of years ago for Christmas. I hadn't had a guitar for a while, and I had finally started having the desire to. What?
I want treats. Give me treats.
Go away for a few minutes. He's like trying to demand my attention right now.
I want to be in the podcast too.
I guess it'd be better if I backed up, and I'll tell you about that guitar. Okay, hold on. We're gonna have to pause for a second. I have to let this dude out.
Pause. Yeah, I've been seeing that guitar, and I'm just wondering, like, what's the story behind it? How long has he been playing this guitar? If he knows how to play it, like I had no idea that he can play like an instrument. My wife actually bought a guitar not too long ago, and she kind of stopped playing it because I don't know if she just got bored of it or she just, I don't know, just stopped wanting to learn. It wasn't easy. I guess that's probably why she stopped.
Stop learning what?
My wife, she bought a guitar a couple months ago, and I think she just gave up on it. I think it was too much for her, the learning process.
You should look into a video game called Rocksmith.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what it's called. It's for consoles and PC. PC for sure.
Okay.
Rocksmith is a video game that you actually use a real guitar to play, and it teaches you.
Okay, so it's kind of like a Musician, I think it's called.
Maybe.
It's an app. I've seen a lot of like advertisement for that. And
But
you use
I
a
know
real instrument, and it picks up your instrument, and it kind of, bounces around and hits each note.
Sounds very similar to that.
Okay.
So Rocksmith was essentially like Guitar Hero, but with real guitars, and then it teaches you how to play. And I've never played it, but I think it like breaks down the different sections of the song.
Yeah.
And then you still have like an easy up to expert difficulty. So it teaches you how to play it in an easy method and then works you up. But I know a few people who have actually learned how to play guitar doing that.
Yeah.
So
how did you learn?
Yeah, so I started playing guitar when I was very young. Um, if I remember correctly, I think my very first guitar was a classical acoustic that was actually given to me by my grandmother that I mentioned a couple of
Yeah.
podcasts ago.
Yeah.
And I started learning how to play that in school. Um, but I don't like this was an early memory, so I don't remember what the holdup was, but I struggled with learning how to read music and then I lost interest.
Mm.
Um, so when I was about 13 or 14, I started getting back into guitar again. Um, and then when I was 15, my mom bought me my first electric, and I started teaching myself how to play. I never learned how to read music. I still did study a little bit about like music theory and things like that. But I started teaching myself how to play various songs, reading tablature. I don't know if you know what that is,
No, I'm
but
not familiar with that.
so there's your standard way of reading sheet music,
Uh-huh.
tablature. It's written to actually show the different frets, and it
Okay.
has a little dot just indicating where you need to put your finger.
Oh, okay,
Um,
okay. I know what you're saying.
uh, and then it's got numbers. It's much easier, very easy to learn.
Yeah.
I used to play guitar like a lot of hours a day, and then for a while I was interested in joining like some bands, things like that. Um, and then I started spending more time doing vocals. Actually, did join a band for a brief amount of time in my early 20s. Uh, Very brief. Like we practiced together a few times, and two of the like 5 times I've ever sang in front of like a group of people were
Mm-hmm.
at a live event at a couple of parties, and it was great. Um, I stopped playing guitar. Go for it.
Wait. So you're saying you can sing?
I'm not saying I can sing.
You,
I'm saying
you
I
just
did.
said you can sing. Oh,
Yeah.
we're gonna have to hear this shit.
No, 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 no. I really don't do it. Um, my so I continued playing guitar for quite a while, but your money's on Josta breaking out. So I said that my dog is probably gonna break out because I just let him off. But so my husky has like totally destroyed fences. He's an asshole, as any
sounds
husky owner knows.
sounds like a husky.
And because of that, when he's outside by himself now, he's on a cable.
Yeah, makes sense. I'd keep
Mm-hmm.
them on a cable too. They're escape artists, man.
They are. So I continued playing guitar
Damn.
very heavily up until my mid 20s, and then I just altogether stopped. I also used to draw a lot, and I stopped for similar reasons. But ultimately, I just wasn't getting the um, I had issues with my ex, and the issues between her and I ate into my personal hobbies,
Yeah.
impacted me pretty heavily. So then I stopped playing for a long time, and I had no desire to play. And a
Mm-hmm.
couple of years ago, I started getting that desire back. I had moved into doing music production via electronics. So not just like EDM, but I started getting into producing hip hop beats. I started getting into
Yeah.
really what got me into it was producing drums. Drums is one of the few instruments I've ever attempted to play and just failed miserably at. And I'm not used to that feeling. Usually, whenever I go to start doing something, I'm at least decent at it. But with drums, my hands wanted to do the same movement, and I couldn't break it apart, which is really
Yeah.
important.
Mm-hmm.
So once I started getting into electronic music production, I could like make drum beats, and I loved it.
Yeah.
So a while after making electronic beats or making beats electronically, I started having the desire to play guitar again, um, and then I got that one for Christmas a couple of years ago, and
Nice.
over the last couple of years, I've gotten back into playing. My skill levels nowhere near where it used to be. but it's nice to have because then when I still am feeling creative, I can pick it up and I can play. I can play decently.
Yeah. Well, I saw a little bit before, and it looks like you know what you're doing.
I know what I'm doing to a degree.
Yeah.
I miss it, but just like art, it's difficult to know that you are really fucking good at something, like really good, where you could have made a career out of it. And then after life happens, you go and you're trying to get back into it, and you're like, oh, well, I'm not where I used to be.
Yep.
It's really discouraging.
I bet. Iso says, dude, I've only ever heard X once or twice, and that was a recording. Damn.
Singing?
Yeah, he's talking about singing.
Yep. It's crazy for me to think that at one point in time, I used to sing in front of people like a whole lot.
Yeah.
One of the memories that popped up for me the other day while I was driving home was I actually remember driving through a storm with like 3 of my friends, and one of them was freaking out a bit because like it was really, really bad, and she asked to turn off the radio and asked me to sing, and I was like,
wow.
Huh? And
excuse me?
Yep.
What did you sing? Just like a made-up song, or?
No, it was like hard rock metal. She asked me to sing a specific song, and so I did.
Okay.
Yep. And then Cheska said, hey, guess what, Ice? I found that lipstick you bought me like 4 years ago. It's gross now. That's fucking weird. And
that is pretty weird.
I appreciate that. What's up, Empress Booty? Welcome to the stream. Welcome to the podcast.
Welcome to the podcast, Booty.
So what about you, DJ? How long you been DJing? What got you into it?
Oh, fuck, dude. I've been DJing ever since high school, man. It's funny how I got started, what actually got me into it. Back in like my middle school years, I used to help my uncle, which was also a quote unquote DJ. Now I don't consider him a DJ because of the skill that I possess, and I know how to DJ now, so I don't consider him a DJ. It's kind of fucked up to say, but it is what it is.
Yep.
He's one of those, I don't want to say an Pandora DJ, but that's pretty much how he DJs.
He had good taste in music and switched up the songs.
Yeah, just, next and play. But
yep.
What I've always wanted to do it because I would always go help him unload, and he'd do all the wiring and whatnot, and he'd DJ, and it caught my attention. I'm like, man, that just looks fun. It looks fun to do. But I never actually like pulled the trigger and asked him to teach me, because at that time when I thought he knew what he was doing, I probably wouldn't have learned anything anyways. But when I actually started to learn was in high school. It was during our senior year. They asked for us to do a senior project, and I didn't know what to do, and DJing was something that I can't remember who told me that I should do. I think it was one of my friends. One of my high school buddies, he's like, hey, maybe you should, do DJing. I know a dude that can teach you. He can be your mentor. I was like, okay, why not? Let's do it. I went over to that dude's house and I saw his setup. He had CDJs, and then he had his techniques, actual turntables. And I'm like, dude, this looks badass. I want to learn how to do this shit. And I went with it. Went back, told the principal, this is what I want to do. And the funny part was, he didn't want to let me do it. The principal was like, this project that you want to do, it's too easy to learn. And,
what?
And in my head, I was like, the fuck are you talking about? Like, we're talking about DJing here. And I think he said it that way because of probably DJs that he knew that don't actually mix. Yeah. DJs like my uncle that can't DJ. So I had a hard time trying to like convince him, that I want to do this. And I had to go up to him and talk to him and be like, this is what I'm going to do for my project. I'm going to learn not just to press the fucking play button and connect all the wires. I'm going to actually learn how to beat match different levels of BPMs. And I finally got him to say yes. And I went through the whole process of learning with my mentor, his name's DJ Alex Sanchez, which we had some issues later down the road, but I'm not gonna get into that. And yeah, he pretty much taught me the way he learned, which is by ear, not by how you learn nowadays with all your screens and your wave patterns and everything.
Where you can actually process a song and it tells you that it is 96 beats per minute.
Exactly.
And it tells you that it's in the key E or whatever,
Yep. Like we didn't have that shit before. It was literally you'd set up 2 CDJs, a big ass fucking binder full of CDs, hopefully in alphabetical order, and that was how you DJ. And I had to learn everything by ear, and it was really difficult. I didn't actually learn when he was teaching me, which was funny. I think I had to have spent like 40 hours, I think, was the minimum requirement for the whole mentoring process. I had to do 40 hours of training with him, and I didn't learn in those 40 hours. I ended up learning by myself. I don't know if you ever heard of this program called Virtual DJ.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Well, at that time, I was broke. I couldn't afford any equipment. I learned on Virtual DJ. I downloaded it and I started 2 songs just trying to match them up. And I realized that when he was trying to teach me how to beat match, he wasn't teaching me on the right beat. He was trying to have me mix or beat match them on the snare with the bass, so they don't line up that way. And he always gave me shit because it never lined up. I'm like, I'm doing it exactly how you're telling me. Like, it kept telling me that I have no rhythm, and it was just really frustrating. And until I went home and downloaded that shit, and I realized it was on the wrong beat. Until I think I don't know if I misclicked or something, but it sounded right. And I looked at that time, that program did have a wave pattern, and that's what got me to understand that I was doing it wrong. And then after that, then I didn't need the wave pattern because this whole time I could really listen to the wave patterns with my ear.
You can't. There's so much wrong with what he tried to teach you.
Exactly.
Like, depending on the genre of music, like you can't. The snare, it hardly ever lines it. Well, not hardly ever. The snare does line up with your bass drum fairly regularly, but it is common for your bass to hit followed by the snare.
The snare, correct.
Depending on if it's like breakbeat or a lot of jazz uses that. Oh my god, that's
it's frustrating, right?
You have to unlearn, and then relearn.
Exactly. So in a sense, I kind of taught myself.
So in chat, Ice Wolf said that it sounds like he was sabotaging you on purpose, eliminating the competition.
I mean, in a way, I mean, you could say that because I mean, technically, he is my competition nowadays. But
he's still around?
Yeah, he's still around. He charges good money. Does he charge what his equipment reflects? Probably not, but he can mix. I'll tell you that. I'm not sure if he can scratch though. I've never seen him scratch in my life, so that's why I don't believe that he can charge all that much that he really does charge. But if you think you could get away with it, you can.
What's crazy is hearing you say how your principal said that DJing wasn't a real, not worth doing. The number of people I have heard over the years, right? All different types of people who say that like making a lot electronic music doesn't make you a musician, or doesn't take the same level of skill. It's always drove me nuts because
that's bull crap.
On that guitar right there, or on a piano, when you press a key, it makes a certain sound.
Correct.
And with any type of electronic music, it's the same fucking thing. You press a button and it makes a particular sound. Now you can remap what that button press does make, and there's a couple of different ways that you can play, but you still have to understand sound. You may not have to understand music, you may not know how to read music or be classically trained, but you have to understand sound in order to make sounds that sound good.
Yeah.
And it's all the fucking same.
You need rhythm.
You definitely need rhythm.
Mm-hmm.
You need a little less rhythm when you're making electronic music because it does help you line it up, and you can do sync things, and that's all helpful. God damn it.
And there goes your stream again.
There goes my stream. It's okay. Yours is still recording, and my stream will be right back up. Good news on that point, I do think that I identified what is most likely causing it, which, if I'm right, I can't find anything documented that it could be, but it would mean that I've spent a lot of hours troubleshooting the wrong things.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah, but it's okay. Shit happens.
Yeah. So yeah, man, that's kind of like what got me into it. And then after that, I just kept buying more and more equipment, and eventually started DJing weddings. And I've been at it for like what, about 11 years now.
11 years, man. That's pretty awesome. It really is.
The only thing I'd probably change would probably be learning actually how to scratch. That's just not easy, man. I just never had the time to invest in that.
Scratching is totally different, and like, I mean, you could be a I don't know what the terms would be, but like a scratch DJ and not be very good at what most people would consider DJing, and you could be an insane DJ and not know how to scratch.
Mm-hmm.
But scratching is definitely a totally different talent, and when worked in well with the set, I think it's pretty awesome.
Exactly. Yeah, because you have your turntablist, which is your DJ that creates music with scratches, and you have like your vinyl purist that makes his music based on his selection and bits of different songs put into one. That's completely different from, you know, scratching your own beat.
Yep.
And that's kind of what I want to learn to do.
It's really awesome. I think I mentioned to you that when we went to X Games a couple of years ago, my daughter and I got to meet
Jesse Jeff?
No, Mixmaster Mike.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, and like, it was phenomenal watching him and Qbert. Do you know who Qbert is?
Who doesn't?
Okay. The majority of the people watching right now don't.
Well,
like, that's for
I mean,
sure.
I should say, if you're a DJ and you don't know who that is, you shouldn't be DJing.
It was the two of them going back and forth and feeding off one another, and it was just absolutely amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Where they take like this 5-second clip of like a vocal sample, and then based off of how they scratch it, they take that, and you turn it into a little bass, and it's all done off this vocal sample, and then it's a 3.5-minute song with just scratching, and it's phenomenal, man.
Yeah. Like, once you learn those techniques, like, there's no limit on what you can create. Because even with just a stupid little sound, it could be a fart sound, and you can make it sound so badass you wouldn't even be able to know it's a fart sound.
Dude, so you know the dude that I've been telling you about, Wax, the hip hop artist from California that I would like to at least reach out to and see if I could get any level of interest from him into joining our podcast.
Mm-hmm.
For session, right? Not permanently.
Yeah.
Unless he was interested.
Be dope. Be dope.
Hold on. What is the name of the song? So there's this song from him that is called Low Budget. And on the song Low Budget, let me bring up the actual lyrics so I don't fuck this up.
Okay.
The song Low Budget is the first song from him I ever heard, and it's from like 2009. It's Wax and his twin brother Herbal T. And the song is a low budget song.
Okay.
It has a bass line that Herbal T, like, you know, played on the bass. Everything else is done with household items. So they're opening and closing an oven door.
So
there's some DJ scratching at the end. There's a little Nokia flip phone. And so like they made this incredible beat.
I want to hear it
and on it though, he says, we can sample some farts, turn it into a #1 jam for the charts. But that's exactly what he's talking about. You know, it's
Yeah.
talking about being able to do things low budget and taking a sample and turning it into something totally different.
Yeah.
In the movie I had mentioned to you, we are friend. What the fuck is the name of that movie with Zac Efron, where he's a aspiring DJ?
Oh yes, I remember you mentioning this. I don't remember the title
we
of
are
it.
we are your friends is what it's called. When he's trying to find new inspiration, they're working doing roofing, and as they're using a nail gun to punch down, you know, their nails, he samples the nail gun and uses it for his kick drum.
Oh, nice.
And I love stuff like that. You know,
Yeah.
like I think it's amazing when people can take regular sounds and then make it into this amazing track with it.
Yeah, like YouTubers that make songs with like memes, like little bits of memes. It's fucking amazing. It's genius. And half of them sound pretty badass.
Oftentimes they sound better than what you typically hear.
Yeah, agreed.
I mean, it's crazy.
Did you find that song?
Oh, would you hear? Yeah.
I want to hear it.
Okay, yeah, I totally got you then.
I thought that's what you're gonna do from the beginning.
Oh God. Here. Let's see.
Well, it's not gonna come to the Discord, huh?
No, but it will be on the stream if you would like to just pull it up there.
Yeah.
Let me know when you're ready. It's short. It's like 2.5 minutes. So.
Okay. Fuck, I'm not hearing it. Oh, there we go. Oh my god. Oh my god.
Low budget, man, you know? Low budget, man, you know?
Full throttle, twin getting busy, been spitting since he was a rug rat with a bottle. I'm like a Ford model. T cause I'm classy.
Dude, that is great.
That's herbal tea.
Dude, that is great.
That's herbal tea. Frisbee, man, up with the birds, wax and herbal tea. Fuck what you heard, I be that pinche gringo. Lunes a domingo, post it on the lawn like a big flamingo. Legendary group like John Paul, George, and Ringo.
They speak Spanish?
Oh yeah.
I would have never. No, okay, that's good, man. That's badass, dude.
This shit right here is fire, dude.
We make beats with a bunch of dumb shit.
Showtime, so feel free to hate and waste time in debate. We don't need your little whack ass cosign. Y'all soft, we real, so we both like a perfect titty. Y'all shit.
I'm gonna jump ahead real quick. Check this shit out there. Jump ahead real quick. Check this shit out there.
I like how he's just banging this though. I like how he's just banging this though. Zipper. That's great, dude.
They are fantastic, dude. That's great. So Wax, Herbal Tea is who went in on the first verse, and Wax is who was doing the hook.
Yeah.
And dude, they're amazing. So when I got to see that dude live a couple of years ago, it was Wax and Mac Lethal. And dude, such a fun show.
Yeah, they seem like a fun duo, man.
Yep.
I
Steven,
can't get
thanks
over
so
the
much for
fact
liking
that
the stream.
he's like
Dude,
going with.
and it sounded good, right?
Fuck yeah, dude. I mean, it obviously doesn't sound exactly the same as scratching on a turntable, but you know,
But it's low budget.
yeah, it's low budget. That's badass, man. I'm glad you showed me that. I enjoyed that.
I'll keep showing you some more of his stuff over the next couple weeks and months.
Cool.
So I feel like next week's podcast we should really try and nail down having a guest.
I'd be down.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Are you guys ready to see some guests join us for the weekly Elev8ed podcast? If you have anybody that you think would be fun to see join us, you should give us a shout out. Let us know who they are. Have them get in contact with us. It doesn't have
down
to
in the
necessarily.
description. Or
Yeah, absolutely.
why do I keep saying description?
Because that's where we put shit. Yeah, post it down in the comments below.
Yep.
Let us know. It doesn't necessarily have to be gaming related. Personally, I would like it if it was either gaming or music related. But realistically, man, if you think that there's somebody that you would like to see us vibe with and get on the show for 20 minutes to 45 minutes, then hell yeah, let's do it.
Yeah. Drop anything down there.
Gamer Girl, I see that you're already suggesting the Don KP. Maybe
Don.
reach out to the Don and see if he has any interest to do it with us. You don't have to. If you tell us that you think that would be good for, if you would like to see them as a guest, then we will absolutely reach out to them too. But do keep in mind that if you do have interest in seeing somebody join us for the podcast, and if you reached out to them first, there's a good chance that it's likely that they'd be on sooner rather than later.
Yep. Well, that being said, I think that's going to be the end of the podcast. For those of you that aren't watching us live on Twitch, our links will be down in the description. Not the comments, the description. Don't forget to...
Maybe in the comments too, though.
Don't forget to like the YouTube channel and our video and hit that subscribe button, please. And thank you. Also, don't forget to turn on the notification bell for whenever we drop another podcast, which will be episode 7 next week. Hopefully nothing bad happens, and we'll definitely see you guys on episode 7.
Thanks for joining us, guys. Look forward to next week.